all of his bookings for 7 years.
There's this cop car, and there's a little cavalcade, and I look in the window, there's Lech Walesa, on my way to the pool. In recent years, Carlo Vivari has had a regular focus on what's now called the New Hollywood. And these films are big hits still with the young audience here. What do you think was so special about your generation of directors?
Nothing. Special? There was a new zeitgeist, that's all, and we aimed to fill it. The zeitgeist was different before us and after us. And the zeitgeist changed in 1977 when Star Wars came out. And if Star Wars had not been successful, 80% of the American films that are around would not have been made because it was so extremely successful. And most of these films you see now from America are extensions of Star Wars in that they're comic books and video games.
Do you see that as a bad thing?
No. Some of them are very entertaining, but it's different from what the people of my generation made. We were much more influenced by European films, and I think the young people around the world are not as influenced by European films as we were, my generation. And that includes some Czech filmmakers, Italians, the French. We were extraordinarily influenced by the European films of the 1950s and 60s.
And I guess those European directors, many of them were also influenced by American movies, older ones.
Possibly. I don't know. I don't think Antonioni, for example, was influenced by anybody. He created a new language of cinema. So with Alain Resnais in France, and Fellini in Italy created a new language. Now, yes, they loved certain American films, but you don't see their influence in their films, you know? Although Fellini made one kind of film that was a nod toward the American musical, Ginger and Fred. But most of his films are so original, they even defy nationality. Fellini's films and Antonioni's films are films of an eternal nationality of cinema. They belong only to cinema, not to Italy, certainly not to somewhere else. So with Alain Resnais. Alain Resnais was, I knew him, and he was influenced by American film, especially Hitchcock. The French loved Hitchcock's films, all of them.
I was reading that you were personally influenced by Citizen Kane, but were you already working as a director when you saw that movie for the first time?
I was making first live television and then documentary films. I had no interest in making feature films then. I would have very happily continued to make documentaries.
But how did Citizen Kane then shape your approach from that point?
I saw a new language. I saw that what he had done was absolutely the best I had ever seen in terms of acting, directing, writing, cinematography, editing, art direction, everything. He had synthesized all of the various arts that go into cinema and changed them radically. And for many years, I would say about 15 years or so, Citizen Kane influenced world cinema. And then along came Breathless, à bout de souffle, by Jean-Luc Godard. And the influence of Godard in 1960 is still very prevalent today. Handheld cameras, jump cuts. You know, that's the new, still, it's influenced television and certainly world cinema. And that all came out of Godard's early work. which was very free-form. You know, the equivalent is the effect that Picasso had on painting.
In 1971, you made The French Connection, which I guess was your first really big hit. It won 5 Oscars, including Best Director, Best Film. Why do you think it was such a success, that movie?
I have no idea. Maybe it's a good movie. That's all I can say. I mean, people thought it was good.
But
That's why it was a success.
Was it because of the chase, the thrill?
I
thrill
honestly,
side of it,
Ian, I have no idea. This was successful because that. I just don't know. I mean, I've worked just as hard on all the films I've made. And so much is a matter of fate. You know? I just don't know why people still respond very strongly to that film and The Exorcist and other films I've made, To Live and Die in L.A., which is now 30 years old and still running everywhere, and we're developing a television series about it in America. You know, now Killer Joe has spread its influence throughout the world, started slowly. I don't know why. They're all different. They're all different kinds of film. I don't have one style.
Sorcerer, which was a big project for you personally, I believe, wasn't a hit. How did that impact you at the personal level after your previous enormous success?
Well, I was disappointed, but frankly, I didn't give a damn. I was happy with the film and still am. And now, 37 years later, it's coming out again, all over the world. First in America, they brought out the Blu-ray already, and it became #1 on Amazon in drama, and #2 in action adventure. You know, for a couple of weeks, and it's still selling well. So I just recently made a DVD, which is coming out in August, while the film is playing in theaters. And in 1977, no, it was not successful. Why is it successful now? New audiences, new critics.
New means of distribution, I guess, with DVD
Yes.
and downloading.
Yeah, none of that existed at the time we made it. Most films never considered a shelf life. You made the film, it played in first run, second run, third run, and then dead.
Also, you couldn't see a film. You had to wait for it to be on TV. There was no other way to access movies in those days once they'd finished their cinema run.
That's correct. And that's true of some of the great classics that have come back now. The films of Chaplin and Buster Keaton. You could only rarely see them. And the American musical, which was a child of the 1950s and late 40s, those have been re-examined and remastered and reappreciated. You cannot predict this. We never know. The question is, are the films made today going to have a life in the future? I have no idea.
That was my next question. How do you see the state of filmmaking today as an art form?
Let me put it this way. I don't think of it as an art form. They are very entertaining, and that's enough. The films that America makes today, I'm not talking about every country, although I do believe, from what I've seen, that with rare exception, the films of every country, to my taste only, were better earlier. I don't see Italian cinema, with rare exception, as being as vibrant as it was in the 1960s and even the 70s. The same with French cinema. I see a tremendous growth in Asian cinema. and films like from the Middle East, from Iran and Israel, and Palestinian films, which used to be nothing. Now I think very important cinema is coming from these countries.